Great, so we are ready to go. So here's what we're going to talk about in today's presentation. We're going to give you some actions to take while your student is still in high school. And I realize that for some of you, your student might be out of high school. Maybe it's been a couple years and they're looking for that next step. But for those of you who do have students in high school, just some actions for you to take now. We're also going to go through the college application process, and not just to LFCC, but for your colleges as well. So hopefully we can give you some relevant information there and some things to look out for. We're also going to talk about ways to afford college. LFCC is an affordable option, but either way, I totally understand that that's something that's on a lot of people's minds is regardless of the number amount, what resources are here for me and for my student to make this even more affordable? And also some tips to support your college student while they're in college. For those of you that after you've heard this presentation feel that you would like to have your student attend LFCC or your student has already expressed interest, we're going to give you some next steps, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A.
Okay, first I want to be honest that I do not have great internet at home, so I am in a public parking lot of which I can't really control what happens in my background, so I'm trying really hard to make sure that I don't fade in and out, but if the lighting gets bad, I'll apologize. Just Kelly, if you'll let me know, I can at least turn my camera off, but my audio will still be there, but I am still here. At night, our internet really takes a nosedive, so I typically need to go find better connectivity in the evenings. So just being flexible and working in this environment that we're in right now. Also want to just mention that if you haven't already opened your chat box, you are welcome to do that. It's a great communication tool as we go through tonight's presentation. I know sometimes you have a question and you want to ask in the moment. We will pause and at the end to ask for those questions and answers. But if you have something you just want to kind of get on the chat box or off your mind so you don't worry about losing your thought there, please feel free to drop it in the chat box, and if we can answer it right then, if not, we'll take it at the end so that you have that opportunity once again to engage in questions and answers as we go. So we know that the college experience and transition from high school to college is a process. I have now transitioned two of my own children to college, so it's an interesting perspective going from working in higher education to also being someone who's currently involved in that as well. So there are some ways that you can help your students start that process soon, but that doesn't mean that if you haven't, or maybe your student is just now coming to the decision that they want to attend college, that it's never too late with LFCC. So if your student is still in high school and they would like to consider dual enrollment is the opportunity for students to take college level coursework while in high school. They can complete the general high school state requirement as well as achieve those college credits. So if they have an A or a B or a C in that class, they will be given credit for, say, English or math, science. Some of that really does depend on what your high school offers. Or if you're a homeschool student, or maybe your high school doesn't offer a class that your student is interested in, you can certainly reach out to LFCC and we can help you understand the process for taking classes on our college campus or in the current environment virtually. And those virtual options will continue moving forward as well. Something I always encourage students, whether it's my advising students that I work with at LFCC, community members, or my own students, I always help try to keep them centered on taking courses, at least one that they think might lead to something more, that either lead to an interest in a hobby or a possible career pathway. So oftentimes high schools offer classes in the arts or a foreign language or maybe an international business or something that is a little bit different or isn't necessarily a requirement. If your high school, again, doesn't offer that course, maybe it's something that we can offer. We have an awesome outdoor recreation and parks certificate program at LFCC. Maybe your student is really, loves and is passionate about the outdoors. Maybe we can help connect them with a class that's going to help them see a future career. And if not a future career, maybe it's just an integral part of who they are as a person. So really helping them find that one little thing or reminding them that this could be something more. And another step you can take while your student is in high school, and especially while we're in this virtual environment, is using that nimble ability to take tours and attend information sessions in this format. I completely understand that you're not really going to get that feel in a virtual session necessarily as if you would attend that campus. But at least now you can explore the information so that when you get to the campus, you have a little bit of background. I know, touring colleges can be overwhelming. So if you can do some of the legwork ahead of time, really, get an idea of what's going to be a definite follow-up that you want to, go in person when that opportunity presents itself, or eliminate, I'm not sure that that's going to be the best academic fit for your student at that time.
Okay, so now I want to give you just a little bit of information about college application processes. And again, this isn't just at Lord Fairfax, it's also at four-year colleges and universities, but these are three items, three components that you might see throughout those processes. The first, of course, is going to be that college application. So four-year colleges and universities really do vary on what it is that they're going to do or what they'll ask of you for an application. A lot of them are going to use the Common App. And Michelle, being a parent and having walked her children through it, has a lot more experience personally with that than I do. But that Common App isn't just for the one college or university that you're applying to, it's for several. So that can be really nice if maybe your student wants to apply for one college that's using it and another. You're not doing multiple applications, saves you a lot of time. Other colleges do have their own applications as well and will use something sometimes other than the Common App. And the deadlines tend to vary, but those deadlines are hard deadlines. By contrast, the Virginia Community College system, which LFCC is a part of, we do have kind of a single application in the sense that we share a system, but you would be going directly to the LFCC site to apply. The big difference is that we have rolling admission. So no matter what time of the year you turn in the application, we're going to process it. And within a day or two, you're going to get something in the mail from us confirming that you have been accepted to LFCC. It's just the process moves a lot more quickly. And the reason is just the mission of community colleges. We believe that students should have access to education. We're your local provider of that education. And do you want to make it as accessible, not only in terms of what education you can obtain, but also just the process. We want to make it smooth sailing for you all. One thing to keep in mind with any of these applications, whether it's LFCC or a four-year college, if you get to a point where you feel a little bit stuck when you're working with your student and you're not sure, it's always better to pause and save than to guess just to get through it. We just want to make sure that, when the application comes in, whatever component it is that you're feeling stuck on, that it serves you well in the future. So for example, let's say you're stuck on the part of the LFCC application where it's talking about in-state or out-of-state tuition. That's a really easy one to want to guess on. I remember when I moved in from out of state, I wanted to just push buttons, but my dad actually stopped me from doing that. And I'm glad that he did because it was the difference between me paying more or less going to LFCC. If you're going through this application process and you're not sure who to turn to, if you and your student, you're enrolled at a public high school, we do have career coaches in the high schools that are there to help you specifically with that process. You can always ask them. If you're in a private school or a public school, again, you can always talk to a guidance or a school counselor. And homeschooled, I know that every group is different. Maybe there's someone that in the group is more experienced with college applications, but just feel free to rely on anybody there. And of course, always call us. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. The next piece here is going to be placement. And just to kind of describe placement to you all, that's more so going to be related to what coursework your student is going to begin with when they're coming into college. Not so much are they in or out, but where are we going to have them start? And LFCC does have coursework for students at all levels. So just to give you an example, if a student's coming in and they're wanting to be an engineer, you're going to take a higher level math than someone who's going to want to be in sociology or criminal justice. It really just depends on the program. The other thing that might have some variance is, where your student is coming in from. Are they advanced or, maybe English was a struggle for them. Maybe math was a struggle for them. I just want to reassure you that it's okay if your student struggled with a certain subject in high school, we're going to get them started at a level where they're feeling comfortable and then work them up to the level that they need to be in. Basically just to complete that degree program and move on to the major of their choice. So for LFCC, we can look at a few different things. The first is going to be your high school transcript. And what we're looking for there is a GPA and then also for certain coursework. So a certain GPA, for example, in algebra is what we're looking at. And Michelle and I can give you the specifics later, but I'm more so just telling you this is a great option. And the reason it's such a great option, if your student hates taking a test, I know I did, it means there's no test needed to be placed at LFCC. So that's great to have as a resource. We do also look at GED scores. So if your student received a GED, they don't have to have that high school diploma. We'll look at that as well. And we can also look at dual enrollment. So, for example, if your student's already taken English 111, they're good to go. They've completed a college course and they can move on to the next class. Finally, we do also look at ACT and SAT scores. Those can be used for placement, but you would need to have a minimum score in order for us to place with those. So just know that there's multiple different ways to be placed at LFCC. And then this last part, orientation, it really varies depending on the school, but this is that period of time where your students can get excited about coming to the school that they're going to go to. They can start meeting their peers, whether it's going to be in a virtual format or in person, sign up for classes, meet their advisor, and it's just that big kickoff before that first semester starts. So the time will kind of vary depending on the school. I know, just giving personal examples, I went to JMU after LFCC. I had like a 2-day orientation where I was touring the campus and meeting people, and then finally, was able to enroll at LFCC. We have like right now, it's virtually about an hour to an hour and a half period of time where students are going to get the resources on campus and be able to meet with their advisor afterwards. So again, just really varies depending on kind of the time that we're in right now and what those schools have planned otherwise. But be looking out for dates. For right now, LFCC has them going in April, even right now in March. And you don't have to go to a school specific one. We do have some set up for specific schools, but your student is welcome to go to any session that they're available to attend. Ready for you, Michelle.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I was just answering a question in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
And just to elaborate on that question, the question in the chat was about minimum SAT scores. So just to say out loud, the minimum SAT score that we can use is a 480 and a 520, I believe. 480 in math and a 520 in English, but don't quote me on that. It might be a 510. It's been a while since I've had to refer to that. Most often we can use the student's high school GPA. Where the SAT scores comes into play is maybe a student, has a 2.8 GPA, which, may not place them into the math or the English that they really wanted, but maybe they did do really well on their SATs or ACTs. So often we try to use that SAT or ACT to kind of balance off that high school GPA. Some students, maybe their freshman year or one year, they had a rough go of it, but, their academics are really at a different level than their GPA reflects. So it's just another tool. And again, this is something that their onboarding process, we will work with them one-on-one to maximize the opportunity for that student. So when you are enrolling in college, whether it's at LFCC or in general, there's a couple of just highlights, tips we want to deliver to you so that you are aware. Most colleges, when you apply, will ask you to upload their high school transcripts as part of the application process. At LFCC, we don't ask for that at the application, but we will ask for that shortly thereafter. For almost all of the high schools in our service region, we have incredible resources in their high school, their career coaches, and they are a partner with LFCC and the county or the school district that you work in. They are a great go-between. They do a lot of information delivery and work directly with your student alongside LFCC. So your career coach at your student's high school may already have sent your student's high school transcript to us. So that may be one less step, one less task that has to be done. So just have your student double check. They can stop or make an appointment if you're in person, or email that career coach and ask if their transcript has already been sent. Our LFCC staff will also reach out if there's any of those documents that we need. But for the most part, that is a very important step that you'll need to make sure has been accomplished before you can enroll in classes. Also want to remind you, and I apologize if I'm repeating something that Kelly said a minute ago when I was answering in the chat. If your student is going to another college or university and they have taken dual enrollment classes while at LFCC, please make sure that they request an LFCC transcript be sent to that four-year college or university. We often hear, my student took dual enrollment classes and it didn't transfer. Well, honestly, a career coach brought that point up a couple of years ago, and we dove into it with some data to look at that because that's a concern. What we found was only 17% of dual enrollment students had requested an LFCC transcript after they graduated from high school. We know more than 17% of our students are dual enrolled students. So please remember that a four-year college is not going to give your student credit unless they see the LFCC transcript. They can't get dual enrollment credit from their high school transcript. So if they're going to George Mason, to JMU, to Tech, they need to send their high school transcript as well as that LFCC transcript. So if your student is telling you that they didn't give you credit for English 111 or 112, please ask that follow-up question of whether that transcript was sent. I will be transparent. There are a couple of schools in the state of Virginia that do wrestle with that English 111, 112, and sometimes they make those students take their own version of composition. Again, have your student work with their career coach, work with an advisor here at LFCC. We want to make sure that you have the most current information for that. Consider the future impact of an AP score. We wanted to put this out there because, again, some of these are blind spots that we have learned through conversations with yourself or through personal experience. So understand that if your student takes an AP class, say AP biology, and they get a 3 on that AP test at the end of the year, community colleges will accept a 3 as a passing score. However, most four-year colleges and universities will only accept credit if it's a score of 4 or 5. So while it may come into LFCC and your student is excited, when they go to transfer that class forward, they may be very disappointed in 2 or 3 years to find out that it didn't really transfer for the long haul. So I'm not discouraging, I'm just saying, make sure that you are aware if you're transferring in AP scores, what that four-year college or university requires for transfer. If your student gets a 3, maybe they take AP stats, statistics, and they get a 3. It might be valuable for that student to take statistics at LFCC while it's fresh in their mind. And I bet they could get an A or a B and really, rock it. So use that as a launch pad or an opportunity to really set themselves up for success if they were like in that, 3 score range. And enroll sooner than later. Whether it's at a four-year college or university or at LFCC, if your student is given the opportunity to enroll in classes, have them do it at the earliest possible time. That's when they're going to get the best pick of classes. They're going to have the most flexibility. Oftentimes there's, you have more wiggle room at the end or as classes get nearer if you need to make a change, but it's harder if you postpone and then you're sort of disappointed that you have all 8 o'clock classes and you're not a morning person, or maybe if you are a morning person, all that's left is 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. classes. So consider that that's a valuable and a very important part of going to college is your students' opportunity to finally kind of craft their own schedule. So help them set themselves up for success and understanding that the later we go in the enrollment period, the less choice that there is available. Specifically to LFCC, I'm going to really encourage students to enroll early. You all are here tonight, you're active, you've got momentum going. We are going to have in-person classes. We just got a great memo from our president today that in-person classes are going to resume at a higher capacity than we actually thought for the fall, but it's still not going to be as robust as it once was. We're moving towards that. If things are looking even better in August, we can expand. But if your student is really craving being in the classroom with faculty and students their best opportunity to pick those classes in person is going to be sooner than later. If in August they have a change of heart and they want to go virtual, for one class or another, it will be easier to switch that way than it will be to then decide or select an in-person class.
So I was going to add to that, and then a question came through as well. I just wanted to give you all real quick a date to look forward to when Michelle says to enroll early. Classes start in August, but you can start enrolling for the fall. It looks like now as of the 12th of April. So that is early, early. I know it probably feels like a light year away for your students, especially if they're still in high school. But just wanted you to know that that's how early you can get them enrolled is April. So really, like Michelle's saying, while you don't have to rush and enroll specifically on the 12th, that is the date that you can be looking forward to. So the question that came in says, if a student's been completing DE courses with LFCC, those are dual enrolled courses, while in high school, do they still need to reapply for admission? The answer is no. They're considered an LFCC student already. So Michelle, did you want to expand on that at all, or do you think that's good?
That is accurate. The only time that they might have to reapply is maybe if they took DE history like their sophomore year, but then didn't take any other DE classes. So they've kind of been in an inactive status. That would be the only time a DE student would need to reapply. And even if they do need to reapply, it's more like refreshing the application. It's not like the whole application process, because the question will ask if you've ever applied to a community college before. You would say yes, enter their student ID number, and it populates a lot of the old information.
Thanks, Michelle. Another great question came through regarding orientation and that April 12th date. It says, is orientation going to take place before April 12th? My son has already applied for the fall. So super happy to hear that your son already applied. You were on the ball and we love it. Orientations are taking place now. The way that it works is the orientations are going to be either with me or Michelle or Mia, who's on this call, or another college employee. And we're just going to give, again, that introduction, like here's the college resources. Here's what you need to know about college lingo. Here's what you need to know about financial aid. And at the end of that orientation, we give them a link. And at that link, we say, okay, now sign up for your appointment with your advisor. And that appointment with their advisor, ideally, we want to have it occur on the 12th onward. So your orientation, yes, will be ahead of time, possibly, if you're coming in early, but you wouldn't be talking with your advisor and enrolling until after that date. And I hope that answers the question. Okay, good. Yes, thank you, Rochelle. So what we understood on Monday was that classes open on April 5th. So yes, so that was the old date. I'm so glad that you said that. We actually just found out today that the date moved to the 12th. So yeah, formerly you could start enrolling the 5th, now it's the 12th. Michelle, to your knowledge, this is brand new to both of us. And maybe Mia's my boss if she wants to pipe in too. Do you know, Michelle, whether advisors are reaching back out to students or they're rescheduling or what the plan is?
There is an email going out to all students who have signed up for an advising appointment to let them know of the new date change. Again, that just came through from our college president today, so that we can expand that fall schedule, make it more in-person, more availability. So the deans just needed some time to react to that. That's kind of the backstory for why we're postponing enrollment. So it is in your students' benefit. I know it's kind of makes things a little wonky in terms of rescheduling. You don't have to reschedule. If you've already made an advising appointment, you can stay with your advisor. You can still have that hour-long, in-depth conversation about who you are and what program you want to take, and then your advisor will create your list of classes. You'll have them all set, ready to go, and on the morning of the 12th, you and your student can log into their student account, enroll in those classes, and you will be ready to go. So even though the date has changed, your appointment does not have to.
Right. Thank you, Michelle. And I did notice one more question. It's related to a different topic. Just want you to know that I saw it. I'm going to save it for the end so that we can expand upon it a little bit more when the time comes. So thank you so much for that question. I will not forget about you. Okay, let me go ahead and get rid of this. All right, so next part. This is on everyone's minds. I know it is. Wanted to talk with you all about affording college and the different resources available to you. I will say I'm not a financial aid advisor and I can't answer a lot of the questions that you all might have. But we are having a financial aid session tomorrow night, and we're having them every other week, pretty much in perpetuity for now, especially leading up to the fall semester. So, what I'm going to do again is just tell you what the different options are and how to apply for those. And then that financial aid session is where you get to go more into depth and talk with a financial aid advisor. So the first option here is going to be grants, and the second option is loans. Together, you can apply for those at FAFSA.gov, FAFSA, and it stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And that first F is important. I haven't heard this a lot recently, but there was a time when people were trying to find out where to do their FAFSA, and they were ending up on sites that were trying to charge them, and that is not the site we need to be on. We want to make sure that you stay on that government website. It's free, and it's the one. You cannot go anywhere else. But of course, you all have been hearing about student loan debt and kind of the challenges with that. But just to know that when you apply for that FAFSA, you don't have to take a loan out. You don't have to accept the grants either. It's just you kind of seeing, okay, what would my child be eligible for? And when you first complete that application, it should give you maybe kind of an idea of an estimate, but you're really going to know what your child is eligible for once you connect with the financial aid office at the college or university that your student is going to. For LFCC, we kind of have some back and forth communication with our students. There might be something that they need to verify or additional paperwork to turn in. But once it's done, it's going to be viewable within their account on our online system. So just want you to know that it does sometimes take a little bit of time, but you do have that person helping you. It is being sent securely, and then you can decide from there what it is that you would like to accept. And again, feel free to be an active part of that process with your student while you're going through it. There will be portions where your student may need your information. Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's up until age 24 that students need their parents' information. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So students aren't considered independent within that college application, or sorry, college financial aid application until that age. So they would probably love to have you with them. Next thing I want to point out is scholarships. And this again varies from college to college. LFCC has over 200 scholarships, which is pretty incredible considering that they're already just coming completely from local donors. So these are people that want to see your students succeed. And I want to reassure you and reassure your student that you don't have to have perfect grades to get a scholarship. Although grades are one way to get that money, you also don't necessarily have to show financial need, although financial need is again one of those major ways to receive a scholarship. Students can also get scholarships because they live in a certain county or because they want to go into a certain program in college, maybe because they love the arts or have a special interest and someone in the community wants to invest in youth that have that passion. Other times it can be because maybe you or the student has an affiliation with a civic organization or a workplace that's wanting to give out scholarships, maybe a church. So just want to encourage you again to be looking out for all the opportunities, especially if affording college is a big concern. Again, every college is different, but with LFCC, the scholarship application, it's one single application, which is amazing because it saves you so much time not to have to apply for all 200. There's not a bunch of essays that your student is going to have to complete. Basically, they're going to log into their LFCC account online through the scholarship app, and then they are going to answer just a few questions. And those few questions kind of automatically apply them for those scholarships. And for me personally, everybody's a little bit different. I'm sappy. I love that at the end, usually every year when we're in person, students actually get to meet their donor at the luncheon that we have, kind of just to say thank you and meet up with that person that possibly just changed their life. So again, definitely just want to encourage that. One thing to keep in mind, though, at least for LFCC, is we do need your student to fill out that FAFSA application before filling out the scholarship application, just so we can evaluate their need. So just a couple of steps to keep in mind. Another thing I was going to let you all know, there's a priority deadline for scholarships at LFCC. So right now is actually the perfect time to be applying. That priority deadline is April 5th. So if you and your student are applying for those before April 5th, they're being processed and considered right away. That doesn't mean that we won't consider applications that go out after the 5th. It's just that's the priority deadline. And again, varies from school to school. Last thing to be aware of is a payment plan. So if maybe your student receives grants, loans, or scholarships, and it's still not enough to cover the tuition and books and fees that they have, that payment plan can really break things down a lot more simply and make it a little bit more doable than, say, doing everything all in one chunk. Now, LFCC, again, is very affordable compared to a four-year college or university. I believe per year, 2,000 is sticking out in my mind. Is that right, Michelle? About $2,000?
I was reading the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put you on the spot. No, I said I feel like 2,000 sounds right for LFCC tuition.
Yes, for a full-time semester. So each class is about $500. So if you're taking 4 classes, which is 12 credits, that would be right about $2,000.
There you go. Yep. So about 4,000 a year. So a lot more affordable. But again, if that is still something that all at once, if that would be difficult or challenging, or maybe again, financially didn't cover everything, that payment plan is there. So we can break it up into 2, 3, or 4 payments per semester. And that's something that your student can sign up for, again, online.
I'm coming. Just typing. Supporting your student. So here is where a lot of us as parents want to support our students, but we really want to show them how to be independent as well. So we're just going to kind of cover a couple of topics that we thought would be valuable to you all. And as I mentioned earlier, the balanced schedule, or allowing your student, this is one of the first times that they really get to choose when, what day, they have a lot of say in it. If they're in a high school or even a homeschool setting, there's only so many teachers that teach English or math, or it's only offered at the time that the school says it's offered. Or if, like I said, you're homeschooling, you have to kind of follow the homeschool schedule. So help your student create a well-balanced schedule. And we kind of frame that loosely because that means something very different for a lot of students. Some students have been in school for 13 years straight. Sometimes that works best. You have found, and your student learns, that routine is best. So maybe not, take a gap in that. Some students have been in school for 13 years and really need a break. They need to maybe take 2 or 3 classes and work a part-time job or volunteer or find something else that really fuels who they are as a student and who they might become as a young professional. So really help them talk through, what does their well-balanced schedule look like? Is it staying full-time in school? Is it taking a partial full-time load and also working, doing volunteer work, getting involved in their community and being active in maybe ways that they haven't had the opportunity before? Or if they take classes, helping them join activities and clubs on campus to really create a new community that they have not had the opportunity to do before. So really understand that every student, a well-balanced schedule may not be 18 credits. So really just talk through that and help them think how they're going to manage their time, because a lot of college students will say they don't realize how much free time they have when they're not having to be in school 6 or 7 hours a day every single day. Ask questions like tonight. This chat box has been fabulous. You all are really putting forth thoughtful questions. This is why we are here. We know that we work in higher ed, and our ultimate goal is to deliver all the content that we have to you, not all at once. So that we hope we're giving you some, things to think about tonight, but we know that your questions are going to continue for the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks. So please know that your questions are valuable. They help us create material like tonight's presentation, but they also help answer very concrete, steps that you might need to help your student understand as well. That leads right into my next, point, is help your student find their go-to person. Again, you are maybe not an expert, maybe you are, maybe you have a lot of experience in higher education, or maybe it's close to you so you can provide that. But if you're like me even though I work in higher ed, I still don't know a whole lot according to my own students. So it's not like that at my school. Or so help those, in that situation, help your student find who their go-to person is. Is it their academic advisor? Do they say, they asked me to upload this piece of paper and I don't know what to do with it? Is it an admissions and records document? I can't figure out what this scholarship means. Is that a financial aid question? LFCC is an extremely student-centered institution, and we pretty much have a staff person whose entire job is in each category of your students' onboarding or education. So if it's a faculty member, if they have a question about, they don't understand their syllabus or they don't understand the attendance policy, just help your student determine who their go-to person is, and then the student can help or ask that person to get clarity. This is going to help model for them how they need to solve their problems moving forward. Again, we want to be supportive in that growth step so that they eventually can advocate for themselves. Get to know your partners in student success. Again, we have a department pretty much for every component of your student's education. Is it campus police? Is it their faculty? Is it the student support staff? We have very robust student resources, whether it's tutoring, whether it's resume building and career services. Maybe it's if you are a first generation student, meaning your parents have not been to a 4-year college or university. Let us help you, give you the resources to make your student feel confident each step along the way. And then walk through campus. Yes, we are all virtual. We're having to do a lot of this virtually, even though we used to do it in person, but our campus spaces are open. You may, drive to the parking lot, go in, check in with the police desk, let them know that you're there on campus visiting, bring your mask, social distance, but you have the ability to, kind of be in that space. We as a staff will be back in person on campus each week in more robust format. So you'll see more and more activity moving into the spring and summer terms.
Another benefit, by the way, just coming from the student perspective of walking through that campus is once you do get your schedule, if there are classes on that schedule that are in person, rather than coming in on the first day, I know we all have the first day nerves and no one wants to admit it, but rather than, scrambling to find that, location 5 minutes before class starts, if you and your student go in and say, there it is, room 102, you know where to go at 9 a.m., your student's going to walk in so confident, knowing where to go, and just so much less stressed than they might have otherwise. So definitely want to encourage you to visit. Okay. So if as you're listening to this, you might decide, okay, I think, this might be a good fit for my student. What does he or she or they need to do in order to make this happen? I'm happy to share with you those steps to get ready to go to LFCC. So I'm just going to walk through them briefly with you all. We do have this available on our website at lfcc.edu/future students, but this is kind of the simpler version of those steps. So the first step is going to be to submit an application. And like I said, that's going to be an online process. And we're here every step of the way if you get stuck still. And as someone else pointed out before, right, so if your student was dual enrolled recently, they don't need to reapply and you can skip this step. But for others of you, your student will still need to apply. After your student submitted an application, they're going to get a username and a password, and that is going to be used a lot at LFCC. That username is going to stick with them the whole time that they're here. So just make sure that you all write that down or screenshot it or just put it somewhere that you and they are going to remember. If they do forget, it's okay. We can also help you find out what that username is and reset that password. Next thing is going to be to complete that FAFSA and the scholarship application. Again, I have those 2 websites right here, and we do have that financial aid session coming up tomorrow and every other week if you do need help, but that will be your next step is to go ahead and complete those applications. The next is going to be to schedule that orientation session, and that is the period of time when Michelle and I are going to go over those resources with you and your student. We strongly encourage you to attend. You don't have to, but it does give you, again, more of an opportunity to get to know LFCC and who those partners in success are going to be with you and your student. Right now, we're offering them regularly via Zoom. Again, there might be some school-specific sessions. There might also just be general sessions for you and your student to attend. but we have them throughout the day and throughout the week. So some are in the middle of the day, some are in the evening, because we really want to find a time that works with everyone's schedules. And then that last piece, again, just meeting with that advisor. So at the end of orientation, we bring a link up on the screen, and that link is what they're going to follow to make that appointment. And this is the fun part to me. Their advisor is going to be somebody that's going to stick with them throughout their time at LFCC. A lot of advisors are going to be with students because of their degree program. So maybe they're with Joette because they're in IT. Maybe they're with Taj Marie because they're in business, and so on. But we also have advisors for special populations. So I know someone had asked previously if we worked with students who maybe were dependent veterans working with the GI Bill. That answer, I saw Michelle answer, was yes. And that your student would get a particular advisor for that as well. So they would be with a veteran services advisor who would go through all the paperwork with them, get to use the Veteran Center. Like, it's a great opportunity for students. Another one would be if your student's a first generation college student and they're in our TRIO program, they would have a TRIO advisor dedicated to them. And maybe if your student's receiving accommodations, they'd be with the disability services coordinator. So no matter who your student is paired with, again, it's that person that's going to be their go-to person for whatever they need. And really, every one of our advisors, I mean this genuinely, are really awesome people that are here to help your student. It's what they're passionate about. Okay, so here comes the point in time. I know we've been answering questions for you kind of all throughout, but we are happy to answer your questions, clarify anything that didn't make sense, and just guide you through those next steps of the process. So feel free to throw something in the chat if you want to, or unmute and ask us. We're here as long as you need us to be here. Michelle, do you want me to start just reading questions off of the chat? Would that work for you?
That's fine. I tried to answer as many as I could while you were talking. I don't know if you were doing the same while I was talking. So yes, if you see one that I missed, please feel free to read it out.
Okay, so I see one that just came in. Oh, okay. If a student changes their major or program, does their advisor change?
Not necessarily. It can. I mean, typically once a student establishes a relationship with an advisor, we give the student the choice of whether they want to stay with that advisor or if they would like to shift. There might be an encouragement if they're shifting to a competitive program like nursing, just because there's so many details. You know, those of us that don't advise in health professions really rely on those that are current and in the midst of it, because, you know, if you are trying to help a student apply to a competitive application program, you want to make sure that everything is in place and accurate, because there's really no room for error on that. So again, it would be up to the student to make that decision, but we would certainly help the student, you know, provide them with the information to make a best decision on that.
Agreed. And then this is a question that you had already answered, but I think it's good for the whole group. Someone had asked if there was a deadline to submit the FAFSA, and Michelle answered it beautifully. Can you expand upon that, Michelle?
So the FAFSA is ongoing. So that means you can apply at any time. So for the next year, it opens in October. So for students who are going to start college in August, that application actually opened the October we just passed. They will accept applications ongoing, and then most colleges and universities start distributing funds right about now. So if you're doing the FAFSA now, you're still probably just fine, and they will continue to, you know, accept, you know, FAFSA continually. However, grant money, that's the free money that the government distributes based on need, runs out the quickest. So if you have your FAFSA application in, the earlier you get it, the more you are considered for. It's just as you go through the year. So if you don't apply till August and you're starting school in August, there may not be as much available funding for you. But at LFCC, whatever funding we do have remaining, we are constantly trying to distribute that.
Okay, so we have at least 3 questions, I think, now coming through. So I'm going to answer the first one I see. They're asking when someone should apply to LFCC. And again, there is a rolling admission, so there's no deadline, but our advice would be, I know Michelle is going to agree, as soon as you are ready. So even though your student may still be in high school, if they're a senior this year, then you can go ahead and have them apply now, knowing that they're going to be able to do the enrollment process, kind of start moving through in April, getting those classes chosen. If, however, like this person, your student's graduating next year, and you're not going to be dual enrolling, what I would recommend is applying the year that they're going to graduate. So if they're going to graduate in the, I guess we say spring, but you all probably say like summer of 2022 in May or June, I would recommend probably sometime in March 22. What do you think, Michelle?
I recommend, that winter term, so January, February, March. That way they're doing the application, then they can work with their career coach if they're in a public high school, or our enrollment services staff, to help them with some of the other steps. Oftentimes those career coaches offer like FAFSA workshops or scholarship workshops, those kinds of activities at the high school. So if they've already got their application done.
Mhm.
But definitely not before that senior year if they're not going to dual enroll, because if your application goes sort of dormant for 3 semesters, you have to redo it again. So just get active and ready to go within 3 semesters.
Yeah, good point. And that nice thing about doing it January, February, March again, is just, that scholarship application is open. So you're getting everything kind of done. Okay, you got your application, your FAFSA is done, your scholarship application is in. You're not waiting several months in between to take a step. So it can be, I don't think convenient is the right word, but it just flows nicely that way in terms of preparing your student. Okay, so next question. Are there any resources available that can assist a student in identifying a major or career field that may be the best fit for them? So yes, trying to think of the best way to direct you to this. The link is lfcc.edu/jobs. And I know that probably seems like an odd link at first, but the reason it relates to our career coach that is online, not the career coach, the person that might be in your high school, but the career coach software. That software has a resume builder, it has career exploration assessments, and it also has job postings from local employers. So thus the /jobs option. You don't have to be a LFCC student to do that. Your student can start using it now. And I actually just went through it yesterday. So funny timing that you ask. For our student development course, we were doing a voiceover kind of explaining that tool and how it works. But that assessment, it's very thorough. You have about 60 questions to go through of likes and dislikes. And when it gives you the list of recommended careers, it's not just a list, it's, what education would you need, in order to get this? What, income can you expect for this area, not around the United States, including California or Washington or Michigan, but right here. And how many job openings are there? And what LFCC programs are going to relate to that field and get your student into that field. So I highly, highly recommend that career coach. What would you add, Michelle?
That's a good one. We also have a couple others that are that we can access. So if your student is interested, they're again, have them connect with their career coach, or they can connect with myself or you, and we will share a couple of other career inventory opportunities. I use one oftentimes, it's called U Science,
Sounds
YOUSCIENCE.
awesome.
It's a little bit more comprehensive. Takes about an hour and a half. It's broken up into like 10 to 12-minute segments, so you don't have to do it all at one time. But it's also it assesses your interest in a different way than typical. So if you're interested in that, you can do some exploration on the web. Just go to uscience.com. If you would like access to that, you are welcome to reach out, and I can share a code for that.
Perfect. Okay, got another question. Let me go back up to it. I just shared UScience and the LFCC career coach in the chat, so you all have that now. This particular parent's asking, or supporter, we have parents and supporters on here today, about students with disabilities. They said, do they still go through the first 4 steps and then meet with that support person, or should we meet with the support person first? Okay, I was gonna say I can't answer it, but I was gonna defer to you, Michelle.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So students who are requesting accommodations will go through the typical enrollment steps. When they select an advisor during that new student orientation and they identify that they are going to be requesting accommodations, they will be scheduling an appointment to meet with the accommodations advisor, and will meet so that they understand the process. It is a little different than what you and the student might be used to in high school. So they just want to make sure that you have all the information. We have a lot of information on our website. Thank you, Mia, for adding that. I was just about to say, can we add that in the chat? So you can take some time and read through that, but also be assured that your coordinator, your disability services coordinator, is going to go over that with you as well. So if it seems a little, cumbersome, although most students and families who have been through the process understand that it's step by step, but you will have support at LFCC, learning to navigate it at higher education.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. I'm actually 100% not sure how to answer this one. And Mia oversees financial aid as well, so she might be able to help us with this. If not, we might need to connect you with a financial aid advisor. But it says, we were told that we will not get our financial information back until after graduation. Why is that?
Sure. I will. Let me share my screen too. Sorry, so I'm not just talking out to another. Hey, thanks you all for being here tonight. It's been a really good turnout, and I'm glad that you are here and joining Kelly and Michelle. For financial aid to be a recipient, you have to have a high school diploma or a GED. So while we can get ready to do everything, we can't release funds and have those ready to give to a student until they are a high school graduate or a GED completer. So you can go ahead and go through all the process, get all of your information in, look at what you're anticipated to receive and things like that, but you're not going to get the full picture and your whole package where you can then actually accept it, because what they'll do is send you information to say you're eligible for this, this, and this. I always say you want to take everything that's grants and say yes, 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 because you don't have to typically repay those monies or anything. But that is why you don't see any of that, or you can't actually have that in hand until a student has to be a high school graduate.
Thank you, Mia. That makes complete sense. And I knew that, it just wasn't.
Yeah,
so glad you were here. Good. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going through older questions that maybe Michelle and I might have answered privately, but without naming you, might be good for the whole. While I'm doing that, again, feel free to chime in, whether it's on chat or if you want to unmute yourself, you can do that as well. Oh, we did miss, well, yes, Michelle did answer it. But it was, will there be an opportunity to visit the campus in person? So like we said, you can definitely pop on by if you wanted to kind of take a look and just explore a little bit. We're not currently offering on-campus tours. Usually that's going to be Michelle or I or one of our student ambassadors. And the student ambassadors are going to make it way more fun than one of us. I think we always try to give your students a great experience. It's just nice to hear from a current student what their experience has been and what they love about LFCC, or even any advice that they have. So unfortunately, we're not offering them right now, but since we'll be returning to campus soon, my thought is once we start returning to campus as staff members, that would be when we might start offering those tours. When we do, our thought is to go ahead and make them just family tours or socially distanced rather than big, huge, large groups. But we can definitely keep in touch with you all on that, since we do have your email addresses now. I can't tell, Michelle, if you answered this one or not. It says, is there an opportunity for my high school senior to meet with someone to talk about class options?
I think I can also answer that. Yes, your high school student will work with an academic advisor. We at LFCC basically require all of our new students to work with an academic advisor at least for the first semester. We find that when they're well advised, they are using their time and monetary resources much more efficiently, because they know exactly how many histories they have to take. They know how many lab sciences. They know they have to take what level of math. That is not intuitive to a student. Oftentimes, left to their own devices, they won't choose to take calculus. But if they're a business major, they need to know that they have to take it, preferably not their last semester, just on the off chance that they might have to take it again. So anyway, those are kind of the blind spots that sometimes students don't think about. So we connect our students at orientation with that academic advisor, and then that will be their go-to throughout their academic program. So it is a very valuable conversation, and your student can have that conversation here in the next couple of weeks. So once they attend orientation, maybe late March, early April, typically advising appointments are available within 3 to 5 days of that orientation session, depending on how busy it is. And then they can have that conversation. Even if they have that conversation, they get their schedule, you know, they're still thinking about it. It's not, you know, a committed deal. They can make adjustments, or again, you know, sometimes what a student's life looks like in April may be very different from what it looks like in August. And again, your student can connect back with their advisor and, you know, check in via email, or, you know, want to have a face-to-face meeting. When we're back on campus, can certainly reach out and continue that conversation. And the same advisor is going to be their support person academically as they move through their program.
And if in the meantime your student is just really wanting to talk to somebody and they're just like, I just don't know where to start, like there's so much to think about, totally understand that. Those career coaches in the high school are going to be huge resources, especially if they're thinking about going to LFCC, but they really can help with any college or university that your student is considering, and any career path they might be interested in. So I definitely want to encourage you, if your student's at a public school and there's a career coach present, which there should be at every high school, to sit down and talk with that career coach about all of their ideas, aspirations, and dreams, and see something that fits. Okay, I think we've covered all the questions that are in here, and any new ones that have popped up. We're still here to continue answering questions. So just in case, I know we're hitting 7 p.m. right now, I'm gonna just hang out for a minute, see if anything else pops up in the chat. And if not, then we will go on about our night.
Thank you again for joining us tonight. I appreciate your time. I know this is a lot of information and big decisions, but know that, like I said, Kelly and I and all of our LFCC colleagues are here as those questions happen for your students.
Actually, something did come up. I'm so glad somebody said so. Thank you, Rochelle. You're my best friend tonight. She said, you haven't mentioned FERPA. I'm like, she's right. So we talk about FERPA a lot in new student orientations, but it would be good for you all to know. And now that that's been brought to our attention, I'll make sure that it's put into our presentation in May. We're going to do this presentation again in May if somebody wasn't able to make it. So FERPA, Michelle, add anything you want to after I say this. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. You do not need to remember what FERPA stands for. You just need to know what it is and what it does for you and your student. So what I can best compare it to is HIPAA when you go to a doctor's office or a hospital. So HIPAA is going to protect your medical information, right? And you can only have that shared with somebody that you write on that HIPAA form. FERPA is almost exactly the same thing, but for colleges and universities. So rather than protecting medical information, it's your students' grades. It's going to be what they're enrolled in, how much they owe. I feel like I'm going to miss something, but anything that's within their records, that's private to them. So if you as a parent, you know, you're navigating this process with your student and you think, you know, I think I just want to make a phone call, just clarify some things. Unless your student has listed you on their FERPA, we won't be able to talk specifics with you. We can always talk general, but can't do specifics until you're on that FERPA form. It's as simple as your student, again, adding you to it. So Michelle, what would you like to add?
That's a great summary. The only thing I'll add is, I mean, as a parent, and this, you know, I had to learn this too, even though you're the one paying, you can't call and say, what does my student owe? I need to write a check. And I know that sometimes seems frustrating and an additional step, but again, it goes back to everything within your student profile at a college, and it's not just LFCC, it's every college in the country has to abide by that FERPA. So if you know that you're going to be actively supporting your student learn how to be independent, you may, you know, you'll want to encourage them to complete that FERPA. Currently, while all of our advising and a lot of our financial aid is being done virtually, your student can give a verbal authorization, but once we go back to in-person appointments and presence, your student may be asked to fill out a paper FERPA. And then again, just keep that in mind if your student transfers or goes to another college or university. Have your student ask for that FERPA form if it's not offered to them, so that they can just go ahead and fill that out, so you don't run into any delays or snags if you're trying to support them with navigating financial aid or the business office or admissions in some capacity. But yes, that was great ad about FERPA. I don't know how we missed it.
I know.
Thank you, Rochelle.
She should work for us. And then Claire asked a question as well. What classes can dual enrolled students enroll in? And this is a really good one for Michelle, and she works with students.
Yes. So if your student is in public school, almost all of our public school partners offer some offerings of dual enrollment. So most commonly, history, English. Some of our school districts do offer science and math. But if you are a homeschool parent or family, or maybe a private school that does not offer classes actually on your high school's campus, your student does have the opportunity to take classes directly through our campuses. If you want them to attend in person once we're back, or they can enroll in virtual online classes. So the answer is yes. Students do have to meet a minimum, so they have to be a minimum of a junior and have a 3.0 GPA so that we can enroll them in dual enrollment. There is an exception to that. Maybe you have a freshman that's accelerated in a certain content area. We can have a one-on-one conversation and have that student work with our department to see if that's going to be a good fit for that student. So if you're in the Fauquier Rappahannock area, you're welcome to reach out to myself. I can help you with dual enrollment. If your student is in a public school, have them talk to their career coach. And if you are a homeschool parent in the Middletown area, reach out to the dual enrollment office. And Erin DeHaven is the admin assistant that can help schedule an appointment for you. And I can put that in the chat.
Yes. While you're doing that, Michelle, what's the GPA for a public school student to start dual enrollment?
Typically, again, right now, because we don't have placement testing in place, it is a 3.0 and a junior standing. Now, I do know that there are sophomores that take dual enrollment history. And I have to be honest with you, that's not the cohort I work with directly, so I don't want to misspeak. I believe we have a couple of career coaches that are here this evening. If they know the answer and would like to share that, I absolutely invite them to unmute and offer their expertise. If not, then again, reach out to your career coach or your student's counselor at their high school, and they will be able to give you accurate information on that.
Oh. That one, I have to read out loud because it went directly to me, but I can't answer it. So it's related. Student is in 10th grade going to take dual enrollment history. So it's exactly what you just said, Michelle. Wondering if he's going to take placement in the fall, is what they said.
Again, I'm not sure when they're going to be bringing placement tests back or if they're going to be bringing placement tests back. I know we do them on occasion for exceptions to the rule. If we have a student that maybe feels like they have a strong skill set, but maybe their GPA doesn't represent that, we can offer the placement test on a case-by-case basis, but we're not doing it as across the board.
Great. I think that's all our questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording and thank all of you for being here. Michelle and I are going to be the last to leave. So if you want to join us for additional questions, we'll be here, but we'll wrap up the night for the remainder who are in attendance. So thank you again so much for joining us. Again, we're always here to help Kelly and Michelle, and really anyone, like Michelle said, that you run into at LFCC. That's what we're all about. We love students. We love to help. So just let us know what we can do. Thank you, everyone.